Good morning. So today I have Ayana with us, who is a core member of the Korn Ferry Global Consumer Practice, where she places board members, CEOs, and chief marketing officers at consumer-facing companies of all sizes. She has experience of over 20 years as both a practitioner and a consultant, where she leverages her expertise to build companies and help grow them. Let's welcome Ayana on 10 Minutes of Hiding Wisdom, who will tell us about her experience when it comes to growing companies, how she has dealt with different strategies, and how she has dealt with different situations when it comes to success. Hi, Ayana. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me, Manal.
Of course, Ayana. So, Ayana, can you tell us about where you're currently working, what you currently do with the company?
Yes. So I am a senior partner. I'm based in Korn Ferry's Atlanta office, and I'm a core member of both our consumer practice as well as our board and CEO practice. And I am leading for our firm our efforts around what we call Power of All, which is effectively how do we build a pipeline of executive leadership talent that can move into the top job, so into the CEO role, either in the short term or the longer term, and also into the boardroom. And we have a specific focus on underrepresented talent, so women and people of color, because we know that there is a lack of equity at the top. And so I'm really excited about that work that I do with my clients.
Of course, that sounds amazing, specifically because, yes, we hear that, okay, women and people of color specifically are underrepresented, but there's little work that's being actually done to make that difference. So I'm glad that you're actually in a position where you can actually help those people make sure that they reach the position that they deserve, which is something that's very important. So thank you for actually doing something like that. So it sounds absolutely amazing. So Ayana, I'd love to hear about how you identify those individuals specifically when it comes to actually putting them in that position, such as it could be a CEO, whether it could be a board member. How do you make sure that you find the right talent when it comes to actually positioning those people within a company?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And if you think about where we get the most exposure, it tends to be through our networks. And what's great about the work that I've done, and you alluded to some of this, is, I had a pretty successful industry career before I moved into executive search. And so I was able to build upon a 15-year career in consumer goods and retail, and then move into this world of all things talent and leadership. And every company that I've worked for, every country that I've worked in, that has helped to broaden and expand my network. So I naturally have quite a diverse network of friends and quite a diverse network of candidates. What I would also tell you is, as the world's largest executive search firm, Korn Ferry has a proprietary database where we have millions of leaders in that database, and we've been able to assess them to understand their leadership capabilities, and we are constantly building the pipeline. So I talked about Power of All. At its core, Power of All is about how do you unleash and unlock the power and potential of all people. Well, to really operationalize that, I am constantly continuing to expand my network, and I'm very focused. I'm focused on a lot of the functions that help, how should I say this? I'm most focused on the functions where we know that there is typically a pathway into the top job. So we know for CEOs, typically they are either presidents, they are chief operating officers, they're general managers, they're chief financial officers, and increasingly we have more commercial leaders that maybe have a sales and marketing background moving into the top job. So as I think about where I want to spend my time, I'm constantly spending my time with executives that are coming up those paths. And we have a dedicated team that's doing quite a bit of research so that we always know, if you're not in the C-suite today, or even what we call the executive suite, who are those folks that we should have a pulse on, who are going to be moving into those roles of increasing responsibility over the next 5 to 10 years. What we have also done as a firm, which I think is helpful, is that we have invested millions of dollars in something that we call Leadership U for Humanity. Well, Leadership U for Humanity is how do we build that early pipeline of talent. And so Korn Ferry has committed to developing 1 million leaders from underrepresented backgrounds. And it's great because we have some partners on board that are helping us on that journey. That's just another way that we build that pipeline.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And especially because it's such a fair approach, because you understand, okay, these people might not be in the C executive right now, but because of their capabilities, because of their skills, they might eventually get there. Because I think there's a lot of people believe usually that, okay, it's connections that help you become CEO and everything. But usually, like, I can see that these practices are so fair and it could help people actually get what they deserve, which is something that's so important these days. So, absolutely love it. You did mention that when you're building a pipeline, you're usually assessing candidates. Can you maybe elaborate a little more on how you assess those candidates? Based on what characteristics do you assess candidates, and how would you choose someone to be a CEO, for instance?
Yeah, well, the great news about Korn Ferry as a firm is that a lot of people know the legacy of the organization, again, as the world's largest executive search firm. But what a lot of people don't know is our capabilities around advisory. So we have teams that are dedicated to everything from assessment, leadership assessment and succession planning, leadership development. That's it, executive coaching. We do a lot of work around cultural transformation and organizational strategy, pay, rewards, benefits. So the list goes on. But what that allows us to effectively do is not just place those leaders, but help ensure that they're successful. So, to your point around some of the characteristics that we look for in leaders, we published a report over this last year. It's called CEO of the Future. And CEO of the Future report starts to look at some of those characteristics of the CEO that I think a lot of people aspire to be. And I'll tell you, one of the key tenets is increasingly these leaders have to be purpose driven. They also have to think not just about their organization, but the overall ecosystem. Because depending on the business, they're focused on, they've got to be focused on investors. They've got to be focused on, in many cases, the communities in which they serve and in which they work and operate. And then certainly they've got to be focused on customers. And those customers can be external, but they can also be very much internal. And I like to say that employees are customers too. And I think we're increasingly seeing that, any organization is only as good as the employees. And that employee experience is so important to a CEO being able to achieve their goals. So that's some of what we look for, that the CEO's agenda is evolving. I mean, we are in a state of the world that is unpredictable. And so the ability to be able to perform for today and protect maybe the core business is just one piece of it. But the CEOs increasingly have to really transform for a future that is quite unpredictable, that we don't know what that's going to look like. And that requires a completely different skill set.
That's very true. That's very true. And I think it all ties down to them being purpose driven, because at the end of the day, if they're purpose driven, that they know that they're working for a bigger cause than them, they know that they have to motivate employees, and they know that they have to set the game straight for a lot of other candidates within their company. So I can see how and why you would create and look for such candidates that are adaptable, especially because life happens when you're busy planning it in the first place. And the pandemic definitely taught us that, okay, we had plans and everything, but the world definitely had different plans for us. So it's definitely interesting. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Ayana. And the last question would be whether your company is hiring. Are you looking for people to work for your company? What kind of roles are open? And if people are interested in your company, what kind of skills would increase their chances of getting that job with this company specifically?
Yeah, well, the great news about the work that we do is we do it on behalf of our clients. So Korn Ferry has what we call our candidate portal, and that allows anyone who's interested in learning more about job opportunities to submit their resume and browse those online opportunities. And so if you just Google Korn Ferry candidate portal, it should get you there. We also offer something called Korn Ferry Advanced, because what we increasingly saw is that, people are looking for answers. They're looking for answers on how they can think about their career, whether that's assessing where you are in your career, whether it's career coaching, resume coaching, even some interview tips and salary tools that can help accelerate a job search. And so you can also do a quick search for that. Again, Korn Ferry Advance is the tool. And then what I would tell you is just to look around because there's a whole hub of real time information and tips and tricks for searching for your next job.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Ayana. The work you're doing, the way you've deployed different processes within your company to find the best candidates for your clients sounds absolutely amazing. It was a pleasure having you as a guest, and I am a fan of the work that you're doing specifically for women and for the underrepresented minorities because we understand how important that is. It was an absolute pleasure, and I hope you have a great rest of your
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
day.